Welcome back to the Cossy Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to a brand new video. This is the latest Arsenal news and transfer news as well. Arsenal are still working on more deals. Sky Sports have just had an interview with Arsenal sporting director Edu Gaspar, and he has confirmed to all Arsenal fans around the world on the biggest sports media in the world that Arsenal are still signing players, and by the end of this window, we will not be disappointed. That begs a very big question. Are we going to do our deals in the next 3 weeks? Because we have 21 days to the end of the transfer window. Have we already done some deals and we're just waiting for a few steps to get them done? We're going to be diving into all that. Mikel Arteta has also been speaking about transfers, and he says most of the players that are in the squad right now have a big chance of staying. So if Arsenal have to sell in order to buy, and many of our players have to, are likely to stay. Rhys Nelson, Ramsdale, Edin Ketia are likely to stay. Are we going to see any more incomings this season? We are going to discuss that as well. But hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. I want to ask you in the comment section below, what would it take right now? We don't have a lot of time, so I don't expect Arsenal to make another 4 signings or 5 signings. It might not happen. The maximum we can see is Arsenal signed 2 or 3 players in the last 21 or 20 days of the window. So I want to ask you, what would be a good window? Which players do you think can come in right now for Arsenal to say we have had a good transfer window? Bear in mind, for me, when players don't have a preseason, when players come in after preseason, it really doesn't excite me. It really doesn't feel like a good window. But eventually, you've got to sign some players, whether they're going to play in preseason or not. So which players do you think Arsenal should sign for us to say we have had a very good window? So let's start off with Edu. Edu has been asked a couple of questions on the Sky Sports, media, but one of them has been about transfers and the fact that our transfer window has been underwhelming, boring, slow, and lacks inspiration. This was his response. He said, "Be patient. You won't be disappointed at the end of the window." So that is how confident Edu is. That is how confident he is that by the end of the window, Arsenal will have done some good work. By the end of the window, Arsenal will have signed some good quality players. Now, personally, I'm not sure what Arsenal are working on. We have been told that we want a winger. We've been told that we want a midfielder. We've been told that we want a striker. And none of those positions have seen any arrival. We have seen Ricardo Calafiori play today. He looked fantastic. He looked good. And I would say, Edu, thank you. That was a good signing. Can we get some more? But when Edu says, be patient, you won't be disappointed at the end, possibly this means that they're cooking something big. Possibly this means that they're working on a deal that could actually be the signing of the summer or the big deal of the summer. Honestly, if you've taken around 7-8 weeks cooking, trying to sign a player, and by the time the Premier League starts, you've not signed a striker, you've not signed a midfielder, it's either you're going to sign a very good player or you're just gaslighting the fans. Now, I'm going to choose to believe Edu because in the past 3-4 years, he's been cooking and the cooking has been good. The recipe has been absolutely very good, right? I've liked the transfers. I've fallen in love with some of the players that Edu has signed. And don't forget, we have signed some players later on in the window, like David Raya. Raya signed later on in the window. And he's been a fantastic signing. He's been a good signing, despite the fact that he didn't have a preseason with Arsenal. So I'm not saying whoever we sign, regardless of not having preseason, is not going to be a good player. But what I'm trying to say is, what if some players came in and they had a preseason? So this is what I'm going to say to Edu. In response to his words, for me, what is a good window that won't disappoint me is us signing a midfielder and a striker. If us to sign a midfielder and a striker, I don't even care about the goalkeepers. If we keep Ramsdale and we have Raya, and then maybe Tommy Setford comes in as the third choice goalkeeper at Arsenal, I really don't care, right? I think Setford is a quality young goalkeeper. I think Ramsdale is a quality goalkeeper, although some rumors today have shown that Ramsdale is actually not happy at Arsenal and he wants to go. And we'll talk about that later on. But If Edu is really working on something big, it should be a midfielder and it should be a striker as well. For Christ's sake, this is supposed to be the season where Arsenal act differently from Man City, where we look to close the gap, right? But the good thing is that we have that confirmation that transfers are still happening, that transfers are still ongoing. Now, Mikel Arteta has also been speaking about transfers, and he was asked about the future of certain players at the club, especially Edin Nketiah and other players. And he said, all the players that are here, there is a big chance that they stay with us. That's why they are here, including Ramsdale, Reece Nelson, and Edin Nketiah. Now, this is a positive. It's also negative as well. The positive in this one is that also tells you that Arsenal don't have to 100% depend on sales to buy. And why would we? We are on an upward trajectory in terms of revenue, in terms of performances, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of everything. Arsenal are on an upward trajectory. So I don't think we are in a financial situation where Arsenal have to desperately ship off players in order for us to buy. And also, I don't think we have the biggest squad that Mikel Arteta should be worried about. How do we sign other players with this squad being very big? I think the goalkeepers, we have 2, right? So it's easy for us to bring in a third goalkeeper. Attackers, we don't have so many attackers that we don't use, apart from Reece Nelson and Edin Nketiah. In midfield, most of the players we have are usable players, are serviceable players, and therefore you can add another player. So what Mikel Arteta is trying to say is we might keep the players that we have, and Edu is saying we will sign more players regardless of whether we are, losing some players, regardless of whether we sell or not. And I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that. I don't like the sound of we have to sell to buy. Why? Yes, I know you have to balance the books, but I don't think Arsenal are in a desperate financial situation where selling must determine our incomings. Now, why I think there are negative connotations to this statement from Mikel Arteta is, for me, it would be why. Edin Nketiah stays. Why? Ramsdale would stay. Why? Reece Nelson would stay. Why? The only player that I would want Arsenal to keep this summer, and he definitely has to go, would be Kieran Tierney. And the reason as to why I'm saying that Tierney would stay or should stay is because he's picked up that injury and we don't know what's going to come next. We don't know what's coming up. We really don't know. So I would be 100% open to keeping Kieran Tierney at Arsenal. The rest of the other players, what is the point? What is the justification? If we are signing Mikel Merino in midfield and we got rid of Emil Smith-Rowe, that is brilliant. If Arsenal want to sign Simeon Adingra, okay, that is okay, but why is Reece Nelson still here? I mean, every time I look at Reece Nelson, I'm just not convinced. He came on today for Bukayo Saka, and I was like, okay, let's see, because this was a game that was open. Arsenal created chances. Odegaard was cooking in midfield. Reece Nelson just doesn't fill me, with any kind of confidence. And I know many Arsenal fans feel like that performance against Bournemouth last season but one is a factor and a reason for us to keep him. I don't see why it's a reason to keep him. I don't see why it should be a factor for us to keep him at the club. It should not be. Honestly, 100% it should not be. So if Arsenal want to have a successful window, Nketiah has to go, and I know he's going to go because his deal is closer to Olympique Marseille. So that one, I'm sure. Ramsdale has to go as well. And I think with Ramsdale, it's more about keeping players that want to be there rather than players that don't want to be there. With Reece Nelson, this is the best time for us to get some good money out of him. The manager doesn't trust him, honestly. Okay, even if he trusts him, the trust is placed in a wrong place. You've got to move on. You've got to move on these players. You've got to find a much better a much better squad. You've got to build a much better squad. So Arteta says some players, and most of them will stay. I don't agree with that. I think there's some players that have to go. And Edu says you won't be disappointed at the end. So let us try to assess the players that are available on the market and Arsenal are interested in them and see who we might end up with. Simeon Adingra is number one. Now, with Simeon Adingra, I like him. I really, really do. And I've already said that this deal smells fishy. Like, it smells like the David Raya deal. Brighton signed Yankuba Minte for £35 million. I think million euros or million pounds, something around that. Then they also signed Max Vaifa for around 25 million euros. That is a total of 60 million euros, right? Brighton might sell Simeon Adingra. I could see Simeon Adingra as an easy deal, an easy to do deal. We've been told that Arsenal have 45 million. They're walking around with 45 million for a new winger. How many wingers can we get with 45 million? Like, we can get anyone with 45 million. Simeon Adingra, for me, he is worth 35 to 45 million. Chiesa, 35 to 45 million. Leroy Sané, 35 to 45 million. So if you have 45 million to spend on a winger, get it done. Absolutely get it done. I mean, Edu do not disappoint. So Simon Adingra, I would say this is like a 5 out of 10. It can happen. If Arsenal really try to work on this deal, that one can happen 100%. I'm very confident that one you can take my hand if Arsenal are really interested, right? So Simeon Adingra, that is one. The second one is Mikel Merino. I think with Mikel Merino, this week is going to be very crucial, and this week is going to be very crucial for Arsenal and Mikel Merino because this is the week we decide that we are serious. And this is the week we establish the seriousness. Like, you cannot tell me the boy came back from holiday and nothing has progressed ever since yet. Fabrizio Copson saying talks are advanced, but you cannot be in advanced stage all the time. Advanced does not play for Arsenal. It is done deal, is here we go. So we expect the here we go from Mikel Merino this week. And I'm going to say the Mikel Merino deal is a 9.9 out of 10. It's a 9.9. Unless I'm 100% wrong, it's a 9.9 out of 10. So that one will happen. Victor Gyökeres. So with Victor Gyökeres, I still think this deal depends on Eddie. And I still think Eddie will leave, right? Why I'm going to say that Gyökeres is like a 3 out of 10 at the moment, it is the price. Are Arsenal really going to strip themselves naked just in order to sign Victor Gyökeres? We'll find out. The price is going to be a very big negotiation point in our negotiations with CP. CP have their sporting ego. We are champions. We are back in Europe. We are back in the Champions League. We've got some money for qualification from the Champions League. We've got some prize money for winning the Portuguese La Liga. What are you telling us? So Arsenal have to show that they are serious in signing Gyökeres. And Gyökeres has to push for this move. So for Gyökeres, however much I feel like he is the one, I am not jumping off that train. He is the one. It's going to take some time. Guys, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. Okay? So, Gyökeres, I'm going to say 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10. Leroy Sané. Leroy Sané is a weird one. It's a weird one because he's 28. Is it 28 or 26? 26, 28. 28. 28, expensive, and his contract is running down. But he wants to stay at Bayern, and Bayern also want to keep him, especially now that they're not getting the players they would like to get. it has the vibes of a deadline day deal. Like, you know that deadline day deal? I think this year's deadline day deal for Arsenal is going to be more exciting as compared to the other deadline days. You know, this deadline day where you're like, Arsenal, sign, Sané, here we go. It could be that deadline day deal, right? It could be a deadline day deal. So I'm going to say Sané, among the people that come in the next 3 weeks, 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10. Chiesa is an easy deal. I've told you Chiesa has the Leandro Trossard vibes. Cheap, available, he has to go. Chiesa, for me, I'm going to give Chiesa a 3.5 out of 10 chance of happening. 3.5 out of 10. I can say it. Not at the moment, I can't say it. But if Arsenal walked into the room for that deal, I can see it happen. Osimhen, 1 out of 10. Unless it's like a mad price. I think Arsenal already have problems with his attitude. Unless it's like a crazy market opportunity, I don't see him end up at Arsenal. I don't. But Edu says be excited and be patient. You won't be disappointed.